how well my lighting setup is going to work, and I'm also not really sure how long my selfie light is gonna last. So we'll see how this goes. Earlier today I did an illustration that unfortunately didn't save. I'm super new to Twitch, so I didn't realize that I didn't do the right settings, but that is okay. What I'm going to be doing is doing sort of the initial color process for Belle, coloring her in and whatnot. And yeah, so I'm just going to do a quick review of my line work, and I'm already seeing that I had missed a spot right there. And let's see, just a little bit right there. So I like to work in layers, and you guys can see the initial sketch. We're going to get rid of that. So this is what the initial sketch looked like, which is a bit different from how I had it earlier. The reason why I changed it was, long story short, it was because I felt that it wasn't quite structurally sound, if that makes any sense whatsoever. I really felt like it didn't, as I started like doing the line work for it, it didn't make sense that she's just upright here and like all of a sudden her dress comes out like that. So what I was trying to indicate was that this was a like a seated pose. But as I started to work through it, I realized, well, I have no indications that she's seated, and so I was like, okay, well, if the stool is right below her, then it also still doesn't make any sense. So I scrapped the whole thing. I only kept this upper part, got rid of this, and problem solved to end up at this result. And the line work is done for that. And yeah, let's start coloring her in. So something that Procreate just recently put in, which is a huge godsend. Hi. Hi, babies. My dog is saying hi to me. Something that's really great that Procreate just put in is this automatic selection tool. They didn't just put it in, but it's relatively new. And I'm like trying to show it off, and it's just not having it. There you go. And you could start to feather it in or out if you needed to. We're not going to bother with that right now. What we're going to do is we're going to fill this layer. I don't have any art on there. Fill layer. We're going to start over. Okay, so we're going to select the outside. Now that, because we've done this really thick outline around the art, we want to invert it so that we have now selected the inside of the artwork. We want to go to a fresh new layer, and we want to fill it. And then what I like to do is I like to select that outer bit, feather it just a little bit, and clear it. And then we're going to invert that so that's white. And we'll make the background color something that's going to pop against the pink, which might be a nice rosish red, I think. Yep. And then I'm just checking to make sure that I don't have anything in there that I need to mask in. And oops, that's not what I want to do. I wanted to rename it. So we're going to name it Fill. And I usually do the fill of whatever the largest surface area color is. For the purposes of my illustrations lately, I've been doing this sort of style. And it really worked well for Barbie that I had had her in all white. And then for this girl, I had her in this like really beautiful sort of orange. So I think for Belle, I might keep her that white color. And what we'll start to do is we're gonna do clip masks into her to get her dress going. So usually you wanna freehand, just lasso tool everything. So got that. and then usually I fill that. And then I'll just clean it up a little bit. So this is the same process I've used my entire time at Disney. Pretty much every job I've ever had, the clipping or masking, and I'm basically just working in large chunks of color on different layers. I find that to be really a versatile way to work, because I can't tell you how many times I've had somebody come up and ask me to change the color on something, or to rework something, or move the pattern on something, and if it's baked into the art, or like you have 3-4 things baked into one layer, your life is going to be very uncomfortable trying to fix all of that. So usually you want to keep things like your line work on a separate color, big shapes like hair, clothing on separate layers as well. We're going to do her hair, mask. I'm just going to pick this brown for now. I think Belle's hair color is more of a redder, warmer brown than this, but I'm doing this just to block it out. And it's clipped, masked in, so I don't have to labor over sort of this area outside. I like how I'm indicating with my pencil, and I realize you guys can't really see. So this area that is right here around the outside of her hair is what I'm referring to. Like, I just lasso it because everything's clipped into this layer. So if I unclip it, you can see that. Cool. And then we're going to pull back. I don't remember what color Belle's eyes are, so we're going to Google it. Belle, Beauty and the Beast. I want to say they're brown. 90% sure they're brown. Or black. They're brown. Cool. So we'll just keep that on the same layer, as well as for eyebrows. That way, if we do a whole color shift, like a hue change, it'll change all of it, and I don't have to go digging super deep for a whole bunch of different layers. And then I'm just going to really quickly name this hair, dress, and then her little stool. We're gonna make it like some sort of that now. So with my main colors blocked in, this is when I just kind of look at my composition. I'm just looking at what's going on in my painting, and I'm trying to see kind of how I feel about certain colors. So I think right off the bat, I'm going to adjust that cushion. So what I did is I pulled that peachy rosy color from the background. I dropped it onto the this little guy, the stool, and just wanted to see like how does it look. And then again, just really loosely figuring out what the color situation is going to be here, because I really don't want this to compete with her. So actually, I do like this weird brown color. I also really love that for her hair. Guys, what have I done? Lock, fill. Yeah, so that's not going to work. So we're just gonna come right back. And what I'm doing here is I'm grabbing the color. See my color picker at the very top corner? And then I drag and drop it, and it'll automatically click it into my layer. But you have to drag it on top of where that layer's artwork is. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this yellow, I'm going to give it 50%, and I'm just going to see, well, it's supposed to do 50%, but maybe it doesn't want to. I think it's because of the nature of the brush that I'm using. So we'll use this brush. Yeah, I'm okay with that. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll do a color swatch at like a 50% and put it on top of another color just to see if the result that I get is harmonious. And if I like it, I usually keep it. So I think I'm going to make these tassels that color, and then maybe I'll make this a little bit lighter. Nope, I hate it all. So actually what I should have just done is Beauty and the Beast footstool. So earlier when I was looking at references for the artwork, oh, my colors are actually really close. The footstool is red. When I was looking at references earlier, I was pulling the footstool colors, and I was like, I wonder, you know what, let's, instead of mimicking her dress completely, we should just bring it down a little bit, maybe make it a little bit warmer. Let's see how this works. Anyway, I was looking at references for the step stool, the footstool in Beauty and the Beast. This will work perfect. Yes. And it was so cute. I saw somebody had done cosplay for their dog as the Beauty and the Beast footstool, but the cosplay, it was just like so well done, so adorable, so well executed. I was like gagging at its brilliance. Like, these people gave it 1,000%, and I was really into it. Okay, yeah, so I'm digging this yellow for these tassels and all of the kind of accoutrement. And then for the feet, I think we're just gonna go for like a dark desaturated foot situation. Actually, it's also that golden color, but I don't want to make the whole thing gold. Okay. This is why you should just look at your references, you guys. Don't fight it. So in the actual footstool, this is more of an orangey color. So we'll do that. And so what we'll do for the feet here is we're going to give it the illusion of depth. And bring it down in hue like that. We'll do the same thing for the bottom of this tassel. But then for the tassels, usually these sorts of tassels are like that really pretty shimmery gold color. So what we'll do is we'll start to pop some highlights in there, especially at the edges, maybe through the top there, and like that. Super. And maybe we'll do like a quick, nice highlight like that. So there's no shame in pulling from your main color throughout the entire composition. It's going to help push all of your colors together. I think the thing that makes something like really childish and yeah, I think childish is just sort of that out-of-the-box Crayola color vibe where you're not blending any of your colors together and you're just going fuchsia, dark blue, purple, and there's no cohesion, there's no sort of resonance between any of the other colors, there's no color bounce back in any of the work. In real life, light is reflected from different surfaces. And if you're wearing a white shirt and you're standing next to a red wall and it's daylight, that red light is going to bounce off the red wall and make your shirt look pink. So your work should be reflecting some level of that understanding of how light works in color. Cool. So now what we're going to do is we're going to work on the hair. Trying to think how I want to approach this. So I think what I'm going to do is this technique that I've been doing for my other illustrations lately. I've been going for this like new, I keep calling it Bruce Tim, but it's totally inaccurate. A lot of my style is really painterly, and it's got this like retro Disney vintage vibe. You can see it's not what you would traditionally call like illustration. It is illustration, but the more like poppy, versatile, I would say, illustration. I haven't done a whole lot of. I don't really like polishing stuff. I don't like taking things to finish. Here's a Peter Pan thing, and this is my more polished stuff, and some lettering I was experimenting with. But I really, what I really love to do and what makes me happy is this, and I'm just trying out something new. So what I was referring to in terms of like the style that I'm starting to like is, you see how I brought highlights in through her hair here, and it's just like these white highlights. I think we're going to do the same thing for Belle. And all we're going to do is we're going to pull this color and we're going to pull it up a little bit, and we're going to make it a bit warmer and just see how that looks. And you'll notice it's not on the same layer as the hair. In fact, we're going to rename it and call it eye hair. And then footstool, I need to rename foot. Okay, and then so what I've been doing is the brush I've been using is a modified version of the script brush, and it gives you this really nice pointed edge, and it goes into a thick, almost square-shaped end. And I found that to be really interesting and really successful, so I've been using the heck out of it lately. The last 3 illustrations I've been really just like going after it. And I like to do these bunches of highlights in 2s and 3s, and I won't go more than that. And I also do what I call banding. So part of that is because that's sort of how your hair works, and that's just how forms work, is you have highlights, you have the light coming, well, in this direction it's kind of coming down and at her, but I like to think that the light is something like that. So it's not going to be hitting this part here. What it's going to be hitting is here, sort of like the top forms of these volumes, and then I like to go across and across, and then as you go down and the forms start to break up, so on and so forth. So that pattern is going to continue also in her dress here. But that's for later. That's here. And I'm really, 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 really big on working in different layers, and I'm also really big on, anybody that is watching that's known me since like high school and college, you guys would know, like, I throw all of my art away. And I'm terrible about keeping my artwork and transferring my artwork when I work somewhere, which has actually really cost me, because now my employers are not willing to release any of the artwork that I've done for the past year, so I have no portfolio pieces, which is why I'm doing a lot more illustration now, because my portfolio has nothing in it, because BLT and Pinkcraft think it's okay to keep artwork from people. Whatever. That is a lawsuit I cannot afford. So anyway, here we are. But yeah, I'm not big on being precious about my artwork, and the reason for that is that it gets in the way of making difficult decisions. I think that if you think your artwork is a precious, sacred thing, you're not willing to make changes that are necessary, and your artwork suffers for it. So a big reason why I do a lot of different little things on different layers is because if I hate it or if it's not working down the line, I just kill it, and it's not a big deal because it's its own thing on its own. Don't do drugs. This is literally my favorite thing ever right now. My husband and I were going into CVS, and they straight up had a Dare booth set up outside of the CVS, and we're like, oh my god, I remember Dare. And the guy's like, yes, girl, like come on in. And we just like went and like donated money, and I got the last water bottle. It was very, very cool, and I was very excited about it. Guys, if you could just see my lighting setup right now, you guys would like laugh in embarrassment. Anyway, cool. So we've done her hair. We're also going to put the highlights in through her eyes. And the way I like to do highlights is I like to put the low light of the eye color at the bottom. And the reason for that is that's just the natural shape of, it's kind of how your eye works. So this is your eye, your eyeball, your pupil, right? So as light hits it, you're going to have this hot light here, right? And you're also going to have a little bit of light sometimes right here. And then you might have some like banding, but that you usually don't illustrate that. And the way that your iris works is, at least from what I understand, it kind of goes in like that. Or maybe it goes out like that. But I think it goes in, so it ends up like reflecting the light. Oh my god, watch, I'm saying this backwards, and you guys are like laughing at me. But yeah, I find that this part of the eye tends to receive a lighter color. So if you have blue eyes, you're like, cool, I have blue eyes. But then like the upper part is sometimes like darker, and then like a little bit around the iris. And like around the edges if you really want to. And then here's that. And then here's that highlight. Boom. Eyeball. So yeah, anyway, I always put that highlight on the bottom edge of the eye. I think it looks better. Don't at me, though. If I'm wrong about the anatomy of it, I will shrivel up and die. Cool, so we're gonna do the highlights on the dress now. And sometimes what I'll do is I will just pull a lighter color, or what I'll do is I'll pick the color and then I go into my layer blending modes, and I go into lighten, and I'll do screen or add, or even color dodge, and I just experiment like what's gonna give me. Lighten doesn't do anything. Add, dodge, screen. I think I like screen the most, so we're gonna stay with screen. Clear that. And we're gonna do the same thing that we did up here with that banding. But actually, because Belle's dress has that sort of vibe going, we should actually do the banding in this sort of shape. You know what I'm talking about? Like Belle's dress has like the like drapey vibes. So it would behoove me to have my line work reflect that. Right? But I just realized I actually want to be going in the reverse direction. So I want, right, because of the way that my my pen works. Yeah. So I'm like looking at it and I'm like, something's wrong. Okay. And then here maybe we'll do that sort of banding so that it's curving around. that. And I don't know why. I have like very specific ways of how I work. When it comes to doing lighting, I like to work like the contours and like I go from the outside in, I think. Could be wrong. But I'm pretty sure that that's how I do it. So I'll do like one side of the body and then I'll do the other side of the body. And I watch. I'm going to say that and then I'm going to do another video later this week and I'm going to do the exact opposite and be like, you should have to go from inside out. But I feel like this makes sense to me right now to be doing it this way. So earlier today, I was struggling with this section. I was trying to problem solve what the heck were going on in the folds of this dress, and it was giving me nightmares. And the reversal of the dress is just like the shape of it right now is just like giving me really bad flashbacks. And so sometimes when we're dealing with the center of the form, so you'll see that these highlights are going this way, these highlights are going to go that way. If we're in the center of the form, I tend to do that sort of a highlight so it's straight out. And if you're wondering, I'm using my iPad Pro, sorry, my iPad Mini and Apple Pencil. I realized I didn't do an introduction of that in the beginning of this video, so I'll show you. And I'm also realizing that my mask is, or my key is not working very well. Sorry about that. But if you see me doing any sort of shortcuts really quickly, I'm basically just using the native shortcuts for Procreate. So going back is 2 fingers and you tap it. There's other shortcuts that are like really intense. I don't use them. I literally just use the like go back or the actual button to go back and forth. I feel like there's some sort of like, you guys probably can't hear my music, but I like to listen to music while I work, but I didn't want, I'm planning on putting all my stuff on YouTube, and I didn't want to get dinged for using music. Because they're like cracking down on everybody for that. So I was like, cool, I really like classical music. I listen to classical music while I work sometimes, so I'll just put that on. But it's like the Tchaikovsky channel. It's supposed to be playing Tchaikovsky, but I'm hearing very clearly opera, and I did not ask for opera, and I'm too far away from my setup to change the music right now. Cool. So we've put those highlights in. And I hate them. This is why you work in layers, because you're going to do something and you're going to hate it. So we're going to do this instead. The good old-fashioned swoop. Oh, actually, why don't I try my water brush? I really love the texture of this brush. There we go. It gives you this really lovely texture in there, and then it also, since the tip is kind of soft, I can do that sort of shimmery, gossamery situation that her dress has. So there's not going to be any highlights, pretty much starting where her arm is and going back, and the highlights are probably going to pick up back over here. And when you're doing something like a Disney princess, you want, unless you're doing like a Rule 34 sort of situation, like you don't want to make it super sexy unless that's kind of the vibe that you're going for. But when you work professionally for a company like Disney, like you're really actively trying to not make your characters look sexy unless it's a character like Esmeralda or like I'm trying to think, Lieutenant from like Atlantis. Like Belle was not designed to be sexy, so like don't try to like make this like a big like buoy situation. Like you know what I mean? Don't do that. So we're just picking up the highlights on that, on the top of these. And then I'm just gonna see how I feel about this. If I hate it. I don't hate it completely, but I don't love it. And then my eraser it's the same brush, but it's at like 50%, so it's giving me this really nice fade when I go back in to like adjust something. There's also a brush for making things like sparkle poo, you know, but I'm not going to deal with that. And then a trick that I like to use is I will take, because this is supposed to be like a light gauzy part of her arm, I will take this color and lighten it and then, or darken it depending on how it looks, so that it seems like it's see-through. Since her skin is a lighter tone, my gut says go with the lighter, but then it feels off. So we're gonna go with a darker yellow and see how that goes. It did nothing. Why? Oh, because this is a lightened layer. That's why. What if? Oh, I maxed out on my layers? No, I didn't. Nope, I hate it. I'm just going to leave it that way, and I'm just going to give it its own treatment. That. And like that. Cool. And then, since we have sort of this sparkle poo going on, we'll do a little bit throughout her dress here. It's important when you do sparkle poo that you think really hard about the hot spots that you have, and you do want to put like your really hot highlights on like the lightest part of the yellow, but like don't be afraid of putting a really hot one sort of in the middle of the sequin, because that's kind of how sparkles work. Like you'll get a sparkle in a darker spot and it actually stands out a lot more because of it. So don't be afraid of doing that. Cool. All right, so I'm gonna go into her face with this lighter color pink. It's like a lower opacity, just to see how I feel about it. Sometimes we'll just like do it low opacity just to see like, is it a nicer color? Does it even matter? Does anybody care? It's too on the nose. Okay, much better. And then we'll do her nails, because why not? Even put like a little bit of pink. And like pulling some colors off of the rest of your composition is really gonna help it feel like this all belongs in the same universe. Especially if this is like a shiny sort of type of ribbon tassel, it's gonna pick up on the reflections of the thing that's around it, like the dress. So you want to be sure that you're putting that in there. Likewise, if this was sort of a satiny texture to the stool, we could even add a bit of that sort of information to the stool, but then that also means you have to do lowlights as well, and it can become a bit of a mess. So you have to be really picky about what sort of textures you're using on different parts of your composition. I really don't want I don't want the stool to be fighting with Belle too much, so I'm just gonna leave it as is. And then I feel like I'm just gonna rename it as my details. And we're gonna put it like at the very top. And I'm just doing this sort of simple stuff where, what is this? Make sure I have the right thing here. Where I start putting like highlights. I really like putting highlights in lips, things like that. In the hair, make it shiny. Actually don't know if I want to put it in the hair. What I do want to do is sparkles. I think the thing that I really love about drawing Disney stuff is like, you just make it fun, you make it magical, you make it beautiful. And as a freelance artist, I don't really get to pick and choose aggressively the projects that I'm working on. And that was something I really miss about working at Disney. And if I could, I'd like to go back. Like, I'm applying like a mad woman. I can't seem to get back in after all these years. But you know, the most recent gig. Ooh, that's too many sparkles now. See, you can get super crazy. So it's important to like zoom out every so often. But yeah, I worked at Disney in 2011, pretty much fresh out of college, and I was art directing almost out the gate on the project that I was on. And then I was on It's a Small World, the animated series, and that made me so happy. My times at Disney were the happiest times of my career by far. And I would seriously give anything to go back. It's just like, I haven't had the best of luck so far. So anyway, the last project that I worked on was a whole bunch of enamel pins for like 6 months. And those designs are going to be coming out later this year, around late summer, I think. Some of them are slated. So once that comes out, I'll be sure to tell everybody about it. Cool, so we've done all that. I feel like her book is blending into her arms. It's like, what is that? So what we'll do is we'll give it a parchment paper sort of color. Hi, Yura. My cat is like 3 seconds away from being really annoying. I could like feel it in my bones. And the second I start talking to my cat, my dog comes over. Hi, Stinky. Hi, babies. So this palette that I'm using is, I'm gonna go with this like sort of Belle color for the bookbinding. The color palette that I'm using is just like this like standard color palette that I had made for myself. So all my illustrations sort of feel like they live in harmony with one another on my Instagram page. Hi, Stinky. Hi, babies. Good girl. We're going to use this yellow, and we're going to use, this is a really fun section of Procreate's brushes. Stop, please. Please stop. I love you. Good girl. This is one of my favorite sections of Procreate. It's the spray paints. And what I usually do, and I found this to be very successful for my Barbie drawing, is I'll just do like color dodge, and I'll just like I'll do like a couple of flicks, and then I'll do like the exact same color, maybe a little bit darker, and then I'll tell it to multiply and do it again. And it gives you this like really beautiful situation. And then from there you could like carve it to give you more depth. And you're gonna have to do that regardless because of the nature of the way that my layers are. Cool. And then I'm catching that I'm not doing that, so rename low dress, rename high dress, rename dress detail. Layer structure is super important because once your layers start getting out of control and they start looking the same, especially in a program like Photoshop where you could have like, literally I have working files that like are 300 layers deep. really hard to find stuff. So do yourself a favor, name it, and there's nothing more embarrassing when an art director comes up to you and is like, hey, can I have that PDF? Can I have that PSD? And you're like, I didn't label anything. Like, none of my file is not ready for anybody to look at, and you just want to crawl under a hole and die. Crawl under a hole and die? Crawl into a hole and die? Crawl under a rock into a hole and die. So, label everything. Cool, so here's where we are so far. One of my favorite parts is coming up, and that is this, I feel like there's no other way to call it but contouring, and this is something that I learned when I was at BLT doing key art for movies. Like, movie studios go crazy for this stuff. Like, this is like the thing that's in, and like I don't get it, but they love it, and it makes it look amazing. You literally just like go into your artwork and give it like a highlight like that, and they're like, oh my god, that's amazing! And you're like, thanks. I'm not quite sure why it's like the hot thing right now, but it's hot, and it does make your stuff look pretty cool. The issue that I tend to have is I forget to change my colors. So I'll start using my yellow on my hair, or I'll use a white, and I'm like, oh shoot, like I have no color in it. So usually what I like to do, and what I like to try to do, is I'll pick from the color of the area that I'm highlighting. So in this case, it would be her hair, and I'm using her hair's brown color. And it's like this combination of highlighting the volume and giving it shape and form, and also being really cognizant of what you want the eye to focus on. So you don't want to just like highlight everything, because it's like if everything's important, if everybody's special, nobody's special. It's like that. And in fact, when I was working at Scopely, we had a project manager that wanted us to put sparkle on all of the buttons, and our technical artist was just like, dude, like if you make all of the buttons sparkly and shiny, then none of the buttons are sparkly and shiny and like unique. So it's the same thing with highlights. You definitely want to be sure you have a good contouring highlight, and I like to pick a side. So in this case, I tend to go, because I'm right-handed, I tend to highlight the left side of my illustration pretty consistently, I've noticed, actually. And if I do end up doing both sides, I will do the other side very, very lightly, and I won't overblow it. So you can see how I do have highlights on both sides of her head, a little bit on the back of the bun, but I really don't want to compete for her face and the book and those parts of the illustration. We're gonna highlight the book, and you'll notice the highlight is going on over the line work, and that helps to make it pop just a little bit. Stay in school. No, that's fine. And then we'll use this yellow to maybe add, or maybe the yellow is not going to work at all. We'll use white to add, that's pretty funny, to add highlights in her dress. And if you really want to make it look like something's really sparkly, you want to like almost put like a highlight that kind of sticks out into that outline. Like that. You see how it kind of like it overshadows and it overpowers the darker parts? See that? It really, really helps to make something look shiny and sparkly that way. And if you're feeling like super brave, take it outside of the illustration, the contours of your illustration subject, so that you have a bit of a bleed, like it's like escaping from the dress almost. And don't get crazy like I just did. You want it to be like a very sane, healthy level of craziness. See how like doing this like really hard highlight like doesn't quite work because we're going subtle on the rest of the body and the rest of the form. So if you do super, super crazy highlights, you have to do it everywhere else, and I don't have time for that. So I don't do it that way. I think the exceptions are if there's like a really hard point or shape that you're trying to draw attention to, then like that's absolutely fine. Or if there's like a really hard crease, so it's going to have that really strong vibe. But again, I really want it to feel like almost like her dress is magic, but the real magic is near the book. So you see how like all of the focus, it's like drawing you up to the book, and all of the highlights, everything is leading to that. And then I don't think it's gonna look good, but let's see. No, it's not super distracting. I was a little concerned that doing highlights in this part is gonna make it look tacky, but it's not too bad. You'll see it's like super subtle. And actually, do you guys remember that like spray paint brush that I had used earlier? You can see it a little bit bled onto this cushion, and actually it looks really nice, so I'm not gonna touch it. Sometimes you have happy accidents like that, like you straight up Bob Ross your way through your drawing, and that's totally fine. It happens to everybody, and I think that's one of the best things about being an illustrator is you tend to like run into these like happy accidents in your artwork, and you're like, wow, like there's no way I would have like actually considered that, and I'm so happy I stumbled into it. So we're gonna put a little bit of yellow. I know I had highlights in her eyes that were of her hair color, but I think it'd look really pretty if we made it the same color as her hair, or as her dress. Like that. And I was mentioning earlier, you want to be pulling colors from your painting that are going to be going in different parts outside of just where they would normally be. So pulling a little bit of that color into her hair is going to help mature your illustration a little bit. It kind of says like, I understand what's happening, and I want you to see what I'm seeing. And like if we wanted to get really crazy, we would do this at like 50% color dodge, and we would just like maybe not 50%. We would just like contour the bejesus out of her with the background color. I've also seen people do this with hard light or overlay. I think overlay was it. So basically you're pulling the color of the area around your subject into the composition, which actually makes it look really lovely and vibrant. So that's another option to consider. I'm not doing it for this particular illustration, for the style that I'm going for. And then I feel like the last thing that's really missing here, I'm really getting bothered by this book. It just, I need it to have just a little bit more texture or something. Like, this is, there we go. Oh my god, I feel so much better. Just to have that like little bit of shadow makes a huge difference for me. Because it's a book. It goes like into the center, right? Cool. And now I feel like we've come this far. Should we just give her a skin tone? We can give her this sort of generic white girl skin tone. And then we get to erase all of the things I did not notice earlier because it was on white. Clear. I think this is the high. Yep. All I'm doing is just lassoing out all of this stuff. Clear. Clear. Bye. Cool. And then we'll go in with a white calligraphy brush to give her eyeballs. And then, oops, not on that layer though. That was embarrassing. Okay, cool. So we did that. And then I like to do like a makeup layer, I guess you could call it. And what I'll do is I'll use this sort of graphite-y brush. And I'll like, I do the makeup of my characters a lot like how I do my own makeup. So I'll do like my cheeks, my chin, my nose, and my eyebrow, and like the area above my eyebrows. I also think it's really cute, and I see a lot of Japanese artists do this. The like elbows are like pink, and like the tips are fingerprints. The tips of fingers are pink as well as shoulders. And it just, I don't know, I think it's really cute. So I've been doing it and I'm finding great success. And then maybe I'll go back in on the details and go back to this brush that I was using earlier, calligraphy brush. I want to make sure I'm using the right thing. And then I'll do, this has like become my signature thing. I'm doing like these like little boop, like on the cheeks and right on the shoulder. I don't know why, I just think it looks really pretty that way. And I feel like the only thing that's missing is the book needs some sort of information on it. So we will do this. So what I've been practicing a lot lately, because I don't have constant work coming in as a freelancer, and I'm looking for full-time work, I've been doing a lot of calligraphy practice because why not? And it turns out I'm actually pretty good at it. Actually, do it like that. And the thing that I'm thinking about getting into now is this part, the illumination, I guess you call it. And you like make it all like fancy and like beautiful, and it's like all like ornate. That's like my next thing. Once upon a time, this thing happened. So I really want to make it look like these are like actual letter forms, sort of, and as they're getting basically turned under her finger, they're just getting like thinner, I guess you could say, because that page is getting deformed as it's moving away from us. Cool. Yay. And then maybe Alpha Lock, we'll make this in a dark blue. and just take down the saturation just a little bit because I don't want it to overpower the rest of the illustration. I feel like the last thing we need to do here is we need to ground the illustration just a little bit. And I wonder if this sort of dark green will do it for us. Lately what I've been doing is I've been experimenting with the type of brush that I use. I want to say, I used the shale brush my last drawing. Yep, I did. And I basically just like I don't know, I really like that difference in texture. I really like the vintage gouache vibe, I guess you could say. And as much as I really love this color green, I just don't think it's appropriate for what we're doing. So we're going to try this darker blue, which is also not appropriate. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit multiply and do that, darken, contrast. There we go. Overlay. And then nope, I hate it all. And this sometimes happens too where like I just can't decide. Ooh, there. So what we're going to do is we're just going to use that same color and we're going to multiply it. Call it a day. Then I guess the last thing I want to do is just give a little bit of like atmosphere to the background. I find that it makes the artwork look really pretty on Instagram, and the easy way to do that is you just grab your airbrush, blow it out, make it like super big, and then let's do this bluish color, see what happens. Ooh, I hear the coyotes are out today. So we'll do this sort of bluish color. Actually, nope. No. We're gonna do, I was thinking like this purpley color. No, that's like too Barbie. We're gonna pull that and then go here and tone it down a little bit. Nope, I hate that too. Oh my god, you guys, I'm really sorry. I'm like having a moment. I think this looks really pretty. This sort of like hazy vibe. And then maybe to make it look just a little bit more magical, we'll go into luminance, we'll use the light pen, maybe we'll use the color yellow because that's what's in the composition, and we'll create a little bit of the magical dusty bits that we see in a movie. Maybe do a blue. See how that looks, if we hate it, which we do. So next step is, look at references. Beauty and Beast Sparkle. You know what I'm talking about? It's like at the end or like Beauty and the Beast. No, Beast. Rose. Like the rose has it, and there we go. Sorry guys, we're changing all of these colors because this actually makes way more sense for Belle. And I really hope it doesn't completely just destroy everything that I've just done. Clear. Okay, we're gonna grab this color again. Airbrushing. We'll do that. Much like it is in the movie. And then we'll create like that really pretty magenta glow underneath as well. There we go. It's like a hot pink almost. It's very 80s. Here we go. And that helps to bring even more attention to the book. And then it looks like those sparkles are, it's like whitish, bluish, Cinderella-y vibe. Notice I've stopped labeling all of my layers. I feel like when you do stuff like this, it really helps. Let me take the opacity down. It really helps to like make your stuff look more magical. I feel like the thing that's holding me back is I feel like there's no like source for the magic. So I feel like maybe if I have it coming out of the book, like spiraling out into the night. Yeah, okay. See, sometimes you gotta just let the magic come to you. So maybe the book is magical. Yes. 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 Okay. Book is magical. And eat it. We'll do some white highlights as well. Yay! The only last thing to change is this should be inverted, so that's a darker color. And that's that. I'm just going to sign it and call it a night because I think I can hear my husband coming home. Follow me on Instagram. Thank you for watching tonight, and I hope that this was fun and interesting, and that you guys will use some of these techniques on your own, at home, in school, and at work. And let me know how it goes. My Instagram handle is EKOLOY, and hopefully I fixed it, so these videos should be going on YouTube soon. So look for me on YouTube, Katya Mode. And that's it. I hope you guys have a great night. Again, I hope that this was really interesting and fun, and thanks for watching.